So the Liberals released their official party platform on Saturday, titled Canada Strong. To this point in the campaign, Indigenous people have been pointing out how there's a noted lack of discussion about Indigenous affairs or reconciliation, a far cry from the Trudeau government's emphasis on it over the last 10 or so years. So does this new Liberal platform fill in those gaps Indigenous people have been pointing out? Altogether, the platform has two sections that are related specifically to Indigenous people. There's the reconciliation section and the other that they call Stronger, Healthier Indigenous Communities. Most of the promises related to reconciliation are actually just continuations of work that the Trudeau government already started. So, for example, they commit to implementing the calls to action from UNDRIP and the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women and Girls Inquiry, both of which already released their action plans in 2023 and 2022, respectively. They also commit to, quote, working towards the calls to action as laid out in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. To note, that commitment is actually a lot less ambitious than what Trudeau had previously committed to, which was implementing all of the calls to action from the TRC. Materially speaking, there are only a handful of items that actually have dollar amounts attached to them or are specific promises. Two that stand out to me include increasing lands added to reserve. I guess this is the government's version of land back. And passing legislation to affirm that Indigenous people have the right to clean drinking water. Notably, that's not a commitment to end boil water advisories, but I suppose it could be a step in that direction. All of the other material items related to Indigenous people really deal with economics. So they want to develop an Indigenous skills and training fund, double Indigenous capacity to engage in resource extraction project consultation, and increase the Indigenous loan guarantee program so that Indigenous people can get more involved and invested in resource extraction and other infrastructure projects. There's also a handful of things in here that deal with Inuit specifically. So there's a commitment to invest in an Inuit university and to eliminate tuberculosis in Inuit Nunangat by 2030. So overall, a lot of these points are vague. Some of them seem promising, but in any case, they can be safely siloed under two categories: quote unquote economic reconciliation and preserving Canada's sovereignty, specifically through investing in the Arctic. In a way, this feels very apt because as the rest of the platform deals heavily with securing Canada's presence internationally and building a homegrown economy, Indigenous people know you can't do that without us. We are more than just an election issue. Canada has a fundamental legal obligation to make sure that they are respecting our rights and meeting our needs. Can this Liberal platform meet all of those legal obligations and the needs that Indigenous nations have? Let's see, April 28th.